A lot of news that breaks on Tuesday lately. By the time we get around to doing our next show, it's a wee bit dated, but we do want to jump into this whole Stewart-Haas debacle as they announced last week that they are shutting down at the end of the year. A once very proud championship-laden team will not exist in the 2025 season, as they were all gathered together and told that this was it, the swan song. Brad, we've talked a lot about the demise of it and absentee ownership and lack of performance and lack of sponsors. But what do you think the landscape looks like now that we don't have this four-car team in Kannapolis, North Carolina?
Well, it's interesting because it changes a lot of things. And as we sit here talking about this on Monday morning, there are still some things that we don't know that are rumors out there. There are rumors that NASCAR is going to limit teams to only 3 charters. Right now, that limit has been 4, and that Hendrick and Joe Gibbs Racing, the last 2 standing 4-car organizations, would be grandfathered in. But I don't think anyone is going to step up and buy Stewart-Haas Racing whole. In fact, we've already heard what the rumors are about those. In fact, Row Motorsports even said that they've acquired another charter for 2025. They just haven't said where it's coming from, but I think it's all pretty obvious of how that goes. But the landscape as a whole is changing, and this isn't one organization staying whole and having new ownership. This is an organization now that is going to be spread out across the NASCAR garage with the release of these 4 charters.
Alexis, I'm a little more concerned about the 300 and some odd employees that have got to find work now as opposed to the drivers. Drivers always somehow or another find another lily pad to hop on if they're any good at all. But what do we think we know now about the movement of drivers and maybe crew chiefs?
Well, drivers, crew chiefs, assets, employees, they're all up for grabs at this point from Stewart-Haas Racing. You mentioned the employees. The one thing that I worry about in this news breaking midseason, and you have to give them a little bit of credit in doing so because they wanted to do that in order to give people time to find spots for 2025. Because if you didn't tell your employees until the end of the season and then, oh, that's it, we're shuttering our doors, a lot of those spots are already filled by that point. So my curiosity is piqued in, okay, are we going to have good engineers, good pit crew members, good, front office people leaving a month from now instead of at the end of the year because they find another opportunity to go to? And if that does happen, how is that going to affect the on-track performance right now as it stands, for the end of this season? I think when we look at drivers, you have 4 drivers there that, Chase Briscoe is rumored to be going to the 21 because it's thought that Harrison Burton is probably going to be out of that ride at the end of the season. He hasn't had very much success there. Obviously, nothing has been announced there. And then you have Josh Berry and Ryan Preece and Noah Gragson, all talented drivers, but not a lot of spots to go to. Brad talked about the front row charter that has been purchased. There's rumors that the other charters are going to Trackhouse in 2311. Would a Stewart-Haas driver follow those charters? TBD, probably not. When you think about Trackhouse and their already long list of drivers that they have contracted, there are so many parts and pieces to this puzzle, and a lot, as Brad mentioned, things that we still don't know yet. We're just going to have to wait and see how it plays out over the next few months, but a lot of uncertainty for the employees over at Stewart-Haas Racing right now.
Brad, she mentioned Harrison Burton and not piling on here, but that one seems to be fairly easy to pick off because right now Harrison Burton has no race wins, no stage wins, and 0 playoff points, and that car is just an afterthought on Sundays. So that seems to be somebody's going to go into that slot. They can't keep that progression going. So looks like Harrison Burton will be replaced maybe before the end of the year. Where does that 4th charter land, do you think? If conventional thinking says that front row has already bought one, so that's one of them. We keep hearing that Trackhouse is probably going to pick up another one. Maybe that's SVG that goes in that car. That's just pure speculation. And then 2311. That still leaves one chair open when the music stops.
Well, the rumor mill, if you listen to that,
I love
is
the
saying,
rumor mill, by the way. Give me
I
more.
do too,
Give
but
me
I'm more
more
of a
rumor mill.
Yeah, or just tell us what you're doing, and then we could talk about it as absolute. But the rumor mill
What would be
says
the
that,
fun in that, Brad?
Yeah,
You
come
know?
on. We don't know-
accuracy.
We don't need to be clouded by facts here.
But anyway, to answer your question, the rumor
You
mill
see how
says that
well
Joe
Brad's
Custer.
distancing himself
I
from
know.
us.
I'm not distancing myself.
running
I'm
away
just saying,
from
like,
you. Run away,
look,
run away.
people's jobs are
All
on the line when it comes to
They
the
are.
rumor
Yes,
mill,
they are.
and that's not a very healthy thing. But the rumor mill says that Joe Custer would actually get the fourth charter, and Joe Custer has run Stewart-Haas Racing for, a decade and a half right now, and his son Cole Custer is the reigning Xfinity Series champion. Now, the question is, if Joe Custer gets that charter in some form, what does he do with it? Does he run it as a single car operation, or would it make sense? They already have a relationship with Ford that they've had for several years now. And we know Brad Keselowski and RFK would love to have a third team, but Brad has already said, I'm about 30 short on acquiring one of those charters. Would it make sense for an alignment there for Joe Custer to align himself with RFK or align himself with another team where you could all help each other as a whole? To me, that's something, if things go that way, that does make sense. But I think the one thing that we've learned over the years when it comes to this sport of NASCAR is that don't ever be surprised, because just when you think something is going to come around the corner that might surprise you again, all of a sudden it surprises you in a much bigger way.
Nope, a lot to be played out this year. It is definitely about not been dull, and it's been early. I mean, we technically don't even get to the halfway point of the year holistically, and all of these things have been turned upside down.